Liverpool has become an intelligent machine through their genius midfield tactics. Players always interchange positions to create overloads and beat the press. At times, both fullbacks invert to form a four-man midfield, giving their technical center midfielders multiple angles and options to bypass the pressure. The closely positioned midfield trio naturally attracts the opposition's midfielders, vacating space behind the line for the inverted fullbacks to exploit. Slot's Liverpool is built to create holes in any defensive block, and let's see how they do it. They typically use a three-man base to build attacks. This naturally creates a three versus two overload against the opposition's front two. Now the midfielders will move behind the first line to find space. Behind these midfield movements, there will be another line where attackers drop to equip advanced half space regions. Here they only have a single midfielder in the central zone, as two other center midfielders have moved out of their position. This obviously makes the center progression difficult, as words can be closed from all sides. Since central penetration is impossible, Liverpool keep possession by playing within their build-up base. Now Liverpool starts creating midfield options, and this was not the case seconds earlier. Even though opposition tried to stay compact, Liverpool's midfield occupation has already created a midfield overload. On a micro scale, two midfielders are creating a pressing dilemma for the center midfielder, while the inverted winger is pinning the other center midfielder. Now the third midfielder acts as the deep dictator to complete the midfield triangle, and ultimately Graham used this pressing dilemma to beat the whole press. Here Slot incorporated both systemic advantage and individual player quality. In simpler terms, the midfield overload is a trained tactic to create a free man, and the final execution always depends on the player's technical quality. Also, the system brings out the best version of Words, who is a constant scanner. Now you can understand why Slot used a midfield line of attackers. Here the inverted winger in the advanced half space becomes the next option. This tactical positioning of two attackers in the half space made the progression possible. It allowed Words to beat the intense pressure. And also note that Liverpool hasn't compromised width, as they kept the fullback wide as a free option when all others moved into the congested midfield. This whole sequence is a great example of creating team tactics based on the technical profile of your strongest players. The attack progressed by Liverpool escaping the central congestion using the same wide player, and they even have two players to attack the goal. Here Slot doesn't compromise attacking threat for the sake of the central build-up. Instead, he balanced both. In another similar situation, Liverpool only have that single player in the central zone. Here Szoboszlai is trying to become that deep dictator, while in the previous sequence, it was Graham Birch. As the midfielder became a part of the back three, the fullback can obviously move away. Here the second midfield line is created by the attacking midfielder and the inverted fullback, while in the previous one, it was the striker and inverted winger. So the whole point is simple. The system doesn't change, but players can be altered. Here even the tactical idea is the same. Create midfield overloads to confuse the opposition midfielder. Then the technical dictator can easily break the lines. See how both depth and width are maintained, and their most creative player is positioned in the half space. It looks like a perfect system. Here they are going for extreme midfield occupation by inverting both fullbacks. Graham becomes the deep dictator, and we can see the midfield trio in close proximity. The system wants to utilize the relationship between these three technical midfielders, as they somewhat share a similar understanding of space. The other players mostly position away from this group to act as their potential targets. Here the trio can play quick passes between them or use the pressing dilemma created by the midfield overload to beat the press. See how well structured the players are. They have maintained width on both flanks, and these wide players are actually the pressure outlets for players in tight spaces. We already saw the same mechanism of releasing central pressure by using wide outlet. See how the centre back is asking Szoboszlai to move away. The intention is to allow Wirtz to drop so that they can create that typical overload. The midfielder is helpless here. These subtle things show how good each player is in understanding the team intentions. With just two passes, the whole press is bypassed. As most teams deploy a 4-4-2 shape with double pivots, Slot wants his team to always create that midfield three. Here it's the winger, center midfielder, and the attacking midfielder creating that midfield three. Even when the opposition tries to stay compact on the ball side, a simple switch of play is enough to utilize that midfield advantage. Any double pivot will struggle to cover such a distance when the ball is switched. By having that constant midfield three, the deep dictator always has that direct access to half spaces. In addition, here they can also use the close proximity advantage to bypass the press. Slot's idea of overloading the midfield has been a headache for any opposition in the preseason. Now we have to wait and see how it will work against compact blocks in the Premier League.